There you go. You're live.
All right, we are live. Hi, everybody. Jean Humbrecht with Humbrecht Law, criminal and traffic defense attorney in Manassas, Virginia. Welcome to my bi-weekly local business spotlight. I try to have them every other week, but doesn't always happen. It's been a little while since I've seen you guys. I have a very special guest today, and I should have checked before we went live. Havilah, is it Havilah?
Yes.
Havilah Magruder Vangrel of Have Strategy Coaching. So Havilah is a certified health and nutrition coach. She is also a certified group fitness instructor like me, a Barre instructor, and is level 1 mat Pilates certified. Oh, I want to talk about all those things later too. Havilah is passionate about all things health, nutrition, and food related. She loves to cook, sharing how to live a healthy life simply, and being out in nature. Havilah is a mom to 2 amazing kids, a wife to a wonderful husband, and a dog mom to 2 crazy but totally adorable dogs. Havilah works with clients to help them find and maintain their healthy life in the simplest way possible. Despite all the noise around healthy living, a healthy life is not complicated. Havilah has proven a repeatable system for eating and living in your healthiest way possible while not getting trapped in boredom, decision fatigue, or overwhelm. Havilah brings more than 3 decades. When she first told me that, I was like, that is not true. There is no way. You do not look like you are old enough to have 3+ decades of knowledge, but 3+ decades of knowledge and experience to help you learn how to make healthy living your lifestyle now and for the future. Oh, I'm already so excited to talk about all this. Havilah helps to demystify and clarify what is a healthy life and quiet the excessive noise around this topic. Havilah is passionate, compassionate, and here to support you on your health journey. I don't even know where to start. So there's so much to talk about and so much that I want to add too, but it's your show, not my, well, it's like technically my show, but
it is your show.
Yeah, so I can do what I want. Anyway, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Havilah. Tell us a little bit more about what a certified health and nutrition coach is, and then a little bit how you got into what you're doing and why you started your business.
Absolutely. So I am actually old enough to have 3 decades, but I appreciate you thinking that I was like 5 when I started this. So we'll just go with that. I'll chalk it up to good health, good nutrition, and really good skincare.
There you go.
So it's a good combination. So a certified health and nutrition coach is really somebody who has taken the time to be trained in what is, so like my training specifically is what's called, oh Lord, words just ran away from me. So it's science-based nutrition. In other words, what we look at is things that have a lot of metadata around them. And so plans and proof of lifestyle that is not a fad diet or this is the new thing, so let's do this. It is long-term proven processes that look at all of the information, all of the data. So my certification comes from the National Academy of Sports Medicine, and they are a data-driven certification process. So that to me really resonated because I had already a very specific way of looking at nutrition and health, and this aligned with that really, really well, and it held to that value. It held the same value. So that's what I did. And so what I do is with my clients one-on-one is we work through what is your current lifestyle, what do you not like about it, and then where do you want to be and why. And we work on really fleshing out that why, because that why is what drives you to get through that gap that's really uncomfortable from where you are to where you want to be. There's a bit of uncomfortableness that has to happen. And anybody who's ever done personal development work of any kind, physical, emotional, spiritual, knows that gap is a little bit tricky. It's a little bit of a wilderness. And so I think of myself as the Sherpa that helps you get through that wilderness, because I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm going to provide you with tools. I'm going to tell you what to take with you. I'm going to tell you what not to take with you. What do we get to leave it there with that old self and not take to the new self? So I work with people one-on-one with that. We do a lot of cooking. We talk a lot about food. I love food. I love pretty much all food. So, a health coach who loves food, right? It should be huge. No, because I eat. I mean, I believe in eating. Like, food is important. You have to eat. And food should never be boring, and food should never be gross, and food should never be the same thing. You need a lot of variety. So I work with people in creating the best plan for them to get them from where they are to where they want to be, and to traverse that wilderness gap with support and with compassion and with help. So I help you get through that space. So that's what a health and nutrition coach does, is we sort of look at it. And whenever you talk about food, you inevitably talk about weight. Whenever you talk about food, you inevitably talk about old stories. There's a lot of cultural and emotional things around food that sometimes impede people's ability to make changes on their own. So they need that external support. So that's what I provide.
So when you say the cultural, I forgot what word you used, but the cultural things, stigmas, I don't know, around food, what are you referring to?
So think about food. Food is the one thing that no matter where you are in the world, you have to do, right? We have like 3 basic things we have to do. We have to rest, we have to be clothed, and we have to eat. And food, more than any of those other 2 things, comes with a lot of emotional attachment. There's family stories around food. There's cultural stories around food. There's habits and traditions and, well, I can't eat. There's even religions around food and things you can and cannot eat, right? So when you're trying to change eating habits or health habits or things that have not served you in the past, you're not just dealing with, well, just stop eating that and eat something different. There's a lot more attached to it that's bigger and outside of you, that then becomes part of your internal voice and your internal compass and that North Star for you. So shifting some of that, or helping you sort through like what's really yours and what's really right for you versus what's being externally put on you from your family, from the cultural experience that you have. That's kind of what I mean about that.
Okay. So how would somebody know that they need to come, or that they should go to a health coach?
That's a great question. Someone should know that they come to a health coach or health and nutrition coach when they've kind of feel like they're already trying to get the results that they want. I'm not a weight loss coach, but I do deal with people who are looking for weight loss as that's their intention of getting healthy, right? Is to lose some weight. I work with people, actually, believe it or not, who are trying to gain weight because they've not been eating healthy, or they eat in a different way, or their body's responding inappropriately to certain foods, and so that they're not getting the nutrition they need, so they need to gain weight. So you come to a health coach or a nutrition coach when you know there's a disconnect between where you are and where you want to be, and you're already trying to make that leap, but you're not really getting the results that you want in the programs or in the personal space that you're in. So what a health and nutrition coach does, and what I do specifically, is I simplify. I kind of distill the process down and make it super approachable, because I think one of the things that I see so often in this marketplace is there is so much noise. And one of those noises is so many people call themselves coaches. Well, I'm a coach. I sell this product and that makes me a coach. I do sell products, but that's not the requirement to work with me. I sell products because I like them and I trust them and I know them. And so then if somebody needs a recommendation, I have sort of a stable of things that I can say, these are what I think you should use because I know that they work and I trust that how they're manufactured and the ingredients in them are clean. If you don't want those specific products, that's okay. I have another list that's kind of the next tier down that we can also use. So it's really more about trying to get there on your own and not getting the results you want. That's when you reach out and you get help. That's how that's honestly how I ended up in coaching myself. Like, I have done this business 3 different ways. This is my 3rd iteration. So the first 2 times were quite a bit different. And then things happened in life, and I had some children who got sick, and my dad got sick, and I got injured, and things happen. Life happens, right? So we had to put things on the shelf for a while, and then we came back to this. And when I came back to this, it was after I had gone through about a 5-year personal development, healing, recovery journey of my own. And part of that journey had been doing coaching and getting coaching for myself. And that was where I realized that what was missing for me in my business was that deeper emotional connection piece, that piece that said, we can deal with all the symptoms, we can deal with all the surface stuff, but until we go into that deeper space and we really start to figure out what is or isn't working, and then why and how we should move forward. And when I looked at the health and nutrition space, what I saw a lot of was, well, this is what you do and this is why you do it. But I didn't find a lot of how. And I was like, well, I know how. I have the how. The how is the part that I'm really, really good at. So when I came back to this business after everything calmed down and after my own coaching journey, I said that this is where I wanted to be. This was where my passion was in that holistic how, that whole person how. So the parts that I had been missing in my previous iterations of this adventure was the more holistic piece. The fact that you have to deal, like if you want physical change, you have to work on the emotional and spiritual level. If you want spiritual change, you have to work on the emotional and the physical level. If you want emotional change, you have to work on the spiritual and the physical level. They're so interconnected that you can't do one piece or the other. So that's kind of where, I'm sorry, I completely forgot where I was going with that.
I think my question was, how do people know they need to go?
Yes. So, that's sort of like when you've done, and I had read the books and I had watched all the free stuff and I had done all that stuff and I could see where I wanted to be. Like I could see the distance between where I was and where I wanted to go, but I had no idea how to bridge the gap. Like I had done all the things and I was still stuck over here and I wanted to be over here. So it was coaching that brought me across that gap, and it was finding the right person who resonated with me in a way. And that's what I work for with my one-to-one clients and with my small group clients is they know what they should do. They know what they want to do. They lack the skills or they lack the knowledge or they lack the confidence, whatever piece it is that's missing to bridge that gap. So I help them build that bridge and walk across it.
So, Jennifer Hocutt liked our video and she said,
Jennifer.
I know, I said, hi, Jennifer Hocutt. Havilah knows her stuff. Yeah, I know. So I have cataracts in both eyes. I've had surgery in one and I still need surgery in this one. That's why I'm like, what does that say? Havilah knows her stuff. So passionate and knowledgeable. Highly recommend. Well, thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer. Very sweet. I love me some Jen Hocutt. I had to hire Jen Hocutt to help my husband. So yes, Jen knows her stuff too.
Yeah, she does. Jen's been on the show before too.
Yeah.
She also said, hey there, Humbrecht Law. So great to see you too. And Sarah White's here. Thank you for tuning in, Sarah. Everybody knows everybody. If you guys have any questions, and I always forget to say this at the beginning, if you guys have any questions, please type them in and we will get Havilah to ask them because I know I'm going to have a lot of questions and you guys probably will too. And then also let us know where you are signing in from because even this is a local business spotlight. I have people signing in from all over the place. So let us know where you are checking in from. Oh, well, Sarah loved the video. So Jennifer, she went up to you. All right. So while you guys are thinking of your questions, because it sounds like there's a lot to talk about, when somebody comes to you, they know where they want to be, they need the help getting there. You help them with the eating, the exercise, the emotional. Do you help them with the whole package?
Yes, because what I have found through my own personal work in applying this to myself, because that's where we all start, right? We all start by applying it to ourselves. In applying it to myself and then seeing it work in my clients is that if we don't deal with the whole person, we don't move past where we are. We might make steps forward, but we're always being drugged back because of how we're neurologically wired. Our neurons get really, really ingrained and they get really rutted and they like that pathway. It's comfortable, it's knowledge, and it may not be where we want to be, but it's still comfortable, right? Like this is a continual journey for myself as it is for everybody. And even in my own journey, I find that though I've worked really hard to rewire and reframe things, there are still certain things that I get a little bit uncomfortable and it's very easy to fall back into that pattern. So if I'm not also working on the physical piece and the spiritual piece and the emotional piece, it doesn't move forward. I don't truly do that quantum leap forward. And quantum leaps don't happen in a single moment. Quantum leaps happen through lots of tiny little things that all of a sudden you look back one day and go, whoa, how did I end up here? I still thought I was way back there. But when you really step back and look, you realize that those tiny little things each day make a big difference. And so I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Slight Edge, but That's very much the sort of process that he explains in that, and you've seen in many other personal development books if you've ever read any. It's just those small things each day that seem really insignificant in the moment. Does it really matter today if I eat my fruits and vegetables for this day today? Probably not. But if I do that consistently over many days, it very quickly becomes a problem. Whereas if I eat my servings of fruits and vegetables every day, it's not a big thing, but it makes a long-term difference. And so that's how we work on it from a holistic perspective. And when people run into resistance of like, so the perfect example is I had a beautiful client. She was lovely. And she wanted to lose weight, which was great. But she was already doing many of the things that she needed to do to lose and maintain a lower weight than she was at. And what we sort of discovered through our process, not sort of, what we discovered through the process of working together was that she was actually uncomfortable being lighter because it brought attention to her. And she was afraid that if she had attention and something happened and she failed, then that attention and that love and that would be taken from her. And this was a story that had started back with her mother at the age of 5. Her mother started giving her problems about weight at the age of 5. So it was through working through not just the what are you eating and how are you eating, it was how do you feel when you lose the weight? Well, I don't like the compliments. Well, why do we not like the compliments? So it's asking questions to help unbury that. And once she was able to acknowledge that and realize what that problem was, she was able to go back and have the conversation with her younger selves in a couple of different spaces. And I know that sounds really woo-woo and weird, but I promise you it's really not. It's actually really based in some solid science, these regressive sort of works where you go back and you have those conversations. You can't change the past, but you can change your perception of the past. Like, that's a little mind-bending. When I first heard that, I was like, wait, what? But you can. And the more I've done this work, the more I see it happen. You cannot change what happened in the past because it happened, right? It's already happened.
Yep.
But you can change how you've perceived it and thus how it affects you going forward. So that was pretty mind-blowing for me. And seeing it work with this client and seeing that change in her and that realizing that she was afraid to be thin, that she, even though she was unhappy at the weight she was in, every time she got to the weight she thought she wanted to be, she immediately regressed because her old self was still driving the car, even though she'd gotten to where she thought she wanted to be. So that's the part of it in that holistic space that we deal with.
So she lost the weight, but she still wasn't happy, or did she gain it back?
Well, by the time I got to her, she'd done this for 20 years, 25 years, right? And she was over 50, which meant that she completely trashed her metabolism, which we could go down that rabbit hole, but she completely trashed her metabolism. So she was going to have to work much, much harder to lose the weight and maintain it than she had ever worked before. But what we worked out was that even if she lost the weight, yes, the mind, body, spirit, including the reframing the past. Yep. Even if she lost the weight, she was not going to maintain it because her old self was still driving the car. And now that she's kind of detached from that previous story and she's starting to reframe and change the perception of that past experience, she's being able to lose the weight in a much healthier way, to maintain the weight loss, because she's now not afraid of it. She's not afraid of the change in her image. She's not afraid. It's that ego is not driving the car anymore.
I really want to get back to this because there's something I really want to add here. But I want to make sure the people who asked questions, I want to get to their questions. Sarah White, and then Marvin, I'm going to get to you too, buddy. Sarah said, what is your feeling on affirmations? If you understand that, or if you don't, I'll ask her.
I do. No, I totally do. So affirmations are great. Sorry, I'm rearranging myself here. I'm getting hot. This is what happens when I talk. I get hot. This is how you know I'm old enough to have 30 years of experience, because I get hot. I get really hot. Whew, I get warm. It's okay. So yeah, affirmations are really great. Now, I was a big one. It was like, affirmations are so stupid. Affirmations are so dumb. Like, really telling myself that I'm pretty, telling myself that I'm smart, telling myself that I can earn money. Like, really, does that work? That's just dumb. I was totally in that camp. Now, I like myself some woo-woo. I do. I mean, I like myself some metaphysical bits. I'm big on that. Probably bigger now than I even was then. But I was so desperate at the beginning of my journey to move my needle, to get somewhere better, to feel more well was really how my journey started. I've always been physically fit. I've been fairly, not heavy most of my life. I've been, actually quite thin and athletic, and I've never had these issues. And then I turned 40, and then I turned 42 and got injured and sat down for 2.5 years. And then I was 45 and I was like, things don't work the same anymore.
Oh, don't tell me that, because I'm not there yet.
Just know it does change, but we can work through it. We got things to work through.
Well, I got Havilah now, so she'll help me.
So part of it for me, affirmation, Sarah White, is I resisted it. I did. I thought it was so silly, but I was so desperate at the beginning of this to move the needle in any way that I could, that I was like, all right, I'll try anything, however ridiculous it feels. And something I read recently in Rewire for Wealth by Barbara Hassan really resonated on this. And she said that when you're successfully reframing and responding differently when you start to look in the mirror and not recognize your old self. Like, you start to see somebody different, you start to feel different. And that's what I was looking for. I wanted to feel different. I knew I needed to feel different. And so I found an app called Think Up, where I get to record my affirmations in my own voice, and then I can listen to them. So I can listen to them at the gym and not have to say them out loud and feel really, really silly, because that does still make me feel a little silly. But what it does start to do, and there's also science behind movement and listening to affirmations simultaneously, or meditations and moving, about how it actually helps because of the brain chemistry that happens when you're in motion, and the adrenaline the good adrenaline that's running through your body, and the lower cortisol levels and all of that. There's actually really good science behind that. So I started doing that. And I would say, Sarah, that it really does make a difference. So whether you write them out every day, so I have one other practice that I recently started, and it's called the belief practice. And it's something I'm actually having some of my clients do as well, which is, what is the belief that you have to create to get to where you want to be? So the belief that you don't have now. So maybe you don't believe it now. So maybe your belief is, I always make poor food choices. So the belief needs to be reframed as, when I look at my food, I always make healthy food choices. You write that belief down, and then you say it out loud to yourself. You could also record it on an app like Think Up, and you could listen to it. So like, I have a wide variety of apps, and I actually purchased that app. They have a free version of it. I actually purchased it so that I could do unlimited amounts of affirmations. So yes, affirmations feel really strange when you start them. Affirmations do work because your brain can't tell the difference between what you imagine and what's real. So if you're giving your brain information that says, this is real, this is what I believe, this is fact, it'll be like, oh, okay, we'll figure out how to make that actual fact. Ego comes in and goes, yeah, but, and you're like, no, I got it. And that's what that affirmation practice does, is it helps to reduce the loud, yeah, but don't, and make that less in the driver's seat and puts you back in control. So yes, I love affirmations, Sarah White. I said, how do you feel about sharing your journey with others as you move forward? Marvin, I share my journey very openly. I'm a very open and matter-of-fact person. I have no compunction with being forthright in where I've been. My personal journey was mostly emotional and spiritual. Like I said, we had some major medical trauma that happened with one of my children for about a 7-year period. And then I personally got injured and sat down for 2 years because I could not walk. It was an Achilles injury that was very, very severe and had multiple surgeries involved, and it was crazy. I ended up having to graft a tendon. It's a long, crazy story. But that journey is what got me to where I am in starting this business and becoming a holistic nutrition and health coach, and not just teaching people how to cook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And then you said something earlier, which I found really interesting, that your brain doesn't know the difference between what you're imagining and what's real. I'm sure there's tons of research on that, but I've actually, come across that in what I do, and I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole, but sometimes when you talk about people's, memories of something that happened a long time ago or a traumatic event, I've heard that, come up, that if you think something so many times, or if someone puts that in your head, whether you choose to or not, you can't, distinguish, did this really happen or am I making it up? And that's me putting it very, very concisely. There's a lot more detail to that, but
Right.
Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah. And it's the same thing with visualization. So part of what we work on too is the visualization. Like, visualization is, again, people go, that's very new age and weird, particularly if you're in our age group. It's not, though. And again, this is what makes this so fascinating, is it started out very new age and weird, but it's actually been proven scientifically time and time again to create real physiological change in the brain over time. So when you do those guided meditations and the visualizations that go with those, and you really build in the feeling, and by visualization, I don't mean just words or just thinking thoughts or just pictures. I mean sounds, pictures, smells. Like what would it smell like? Like, that was probably the biggest turning point for me when somebody was doing a visualization with, through a guided visualization, said, what do you smell? I was like, oh, smell. Like, we don't think of that sensor, that olfactory sense, as being as integrated into our experience as it is. But you think about smells, like if you've ever smelled a cologne that maybe a former boyfriend, like from a millennium ago, used to wear, and you smell it, and it's like, for a half a split second, you're 100 years ago experiencing that smell. Like, olfactory sense is a huge part, and sometimes very subconscious part, of our memories. And so when you're building visualizations and you're looking at, what do I want my life to look like and feel like, part of building that feeling into it is that olfactory sense. And for me, that was what turned the key in those visualizations, for making them like, okay, I can look at pretty pictures and that's great, but I'm not getting any feeling. For me, it was the feeling. It was connecting with that feeling. And when you deal with food and you deal with things like that I do, a big part of what I do is an olfactory based space, right? Like, you got to be able to smell what you're cooking. You got to be able to smell, like, you should smell what you're making, and it should excite you. Like, it should make you salivate. It should make you go, yes, let's eat, right? So that visualization is part of that imagination part, right? If you can really build a visualization that you can internalize physically into your body, your brain goes, well, it must be true. Well, if it's true, then we're going to have to figure out how to make this true, because clearly we already think it's true. So it is really fascinating. I mean, the science behind it is mind-boggling, and it falls into the range of, and again, I could go on for days. It falls into the range of neuroplasticity and what our brains can learn and relearn and unlearn and then relearn again in a different way. Our ability to rewire through very simple practices. Now, simple, don't confuse simple with easy.
Mm-hmm.
I tell my clients that all the time, but this is supposed to be easy. I said, no, I said it would be simple. There's a difference. Mm-hmm. Simple is not always easy. Sometimes complicated is easy, because complicated is a really good way to avoid. Right? Mm-hmm. If it's simple, there's really no reason to avoid it. But if it's complicated, well, then that's the reason I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that is really a fascinating part of that. And that's how that regressive piece ties in too, right? When you go back and you really get into that moment that you're remembering, that feeling, that visceral response, like, what does your body feel like in that moment? And then being able to kind of pull back and do that, like, out of body experience and go, oh, I made that whole story up. It's not actually what happened. It's really powerful. It's really, really powerful.
Yeah, and that actually comes back to what I wanted to mention earlier, and kind of what Marvin said. Shout out to Marvin Powell. Thanks for watching. Coach Powell. We're all different coaches. We'll get to that, the difference in coach, later. There's too much to talk about. Marvin said, I love the mind, body, spirit connection that you're speaking about, including reframing the past, with a bunch of different emojis. So I was listening to a podcast actually earlier when I was driving home, and there was a guest. The guest on the podcast was a coach, and they were talking about the difference between coaching and counseling and all that stuff. And what you're saying sounds like something that a counselor might go into, talking about things in the past. So, at I guess I'm going to ask you to expand on that a little bit. Are counseling services, not counseling services, is that kind of part of what you do? Is what you do similar to what a counselor does? And then I guess my follow up to that is there any point where you suggest that somebody actually speak to a counselor? Which would a counselor be more beneficial? You know what I mean.
Where's the line? So yeah,
right.
Counseling and coaching are similar but different, quite
Mm-hmm.
different. Most people come to coaching after they've done some counseling, if they truly need counseling, because coaching is about support and accountability and sort of removing your excuses. Counseling and that sort of work tends to be more about examining the past and retelling the story, sometimes just over and over and over. So I have some people who've been like, well, I've been in counseling and I went to a psychiatrist for nutrition, and I'm still in the same place that I was, because they just rehash. Not all counselors. There are some very excellent counselors out there who I have connections with, and if I have a client that I feel is outside of the purview that I am capable of dealing with, I will absolutely say, this is who you need to talk to. You need to go speak to a counselor about these things, because this is big. If we're talking about, if we dig in and we discover really deep childhood trauma, we discover things that, big things that are way outside my box. I really work with a lot of people, and most coaches work with people who've been through counseling. And I did that. I went through counseling first. A therapy. I went through therapy for a while, because that was a different space of what I needed. And then coaching was when I had come through that and I had done all of that, and I needed to do the work, but I needed the support and I needed the accountability to actually have the rubber meet the road. So that's sort of the line between therapy and coaching. Coaching is much more the action-based space. It's much more the, okay, I know what it is, I know why it is, or maybe I know at least some of it, but I'm tired of just sitting there talking about it. I'm ready to move forward. Coaching is sort of the, all right, let's go. Put your backpack on. Here's what you're taking. Here's what you're not taking. You got 3 paths. Which one are you going to pick? Okay, great. What are your mile markers on each of those paths? Fantastic. Let's go for the first one. What's our first step? And we work through them with that. So there are some crossovers for sure, and each counselor and each therapist will work a little differently, but that's sort of the best way I can describe the difference between coaching and counseling. And again, if I get into into it with somebody and we discover there's a real eating disorder, that goes to a therapist. Specifically, I have a couple therapists that I have references who work with eating disorders, or like I said, if we find deep childhood and emotional trauma, real bad damage there, that goes to a therapist. I'm more at the action level. When you're ready to take action and need that accountability and support, that's what a coach comes in and does.
Okay. So can you give us an example of, I don't want to say typical because everybody's so different, but just an example of what you do to help somebody, or maybe something that you've probably seen in your 3+ decades. I guess people say I'm good at questions, but I don't sound like I'm good at questions right now. What is one issue that you think is more common than anything else among the clients that you've had?
So I think one of the most common issues that I see is a really misunderstanding of what healthy eating is, or what even health is.
Okay.
What do you measure health by? What is health? And what I think people think is what I see people stuck on is, well, I'm told by society, or I'm told by the magazines I read, or I'm told by the gym I go to, or I'm told by whatever it is that they're doing, this is what I should be, but this is not what I am, so I must be unhealthy, or I must be wrong, or I must be eating wrong. well, I'm a vegan, but somebody else says I should be keto. Well, I'm a keto and everybody says I should be vegan. Or I'm, it's this idea that there is a one size fits all for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that, well, I just need to eat less and move more. That's actually a really big myth. It's actually a really big myth. And that's a really hard one because that is so entrenched in our thinking because of the wonderful $1 billion+ diet culture that we've all lived through for the last 20 some years. So, or 30 years, actually, really 40 years. Oh, dear God, how did the 80s 40 years ago? Please stop.
I was born in the 80s. Don't say that.
Oh my, we're having a very large thunderstorm. So if I disappear, I apologize.
Oh, okay. I'll just entertain everybody with my opinions on diets until you sign back on.
So anyways, so the biggest issue I see is the idea that health is a one size fits all. And part of what I work with my one-to-one clients on, and even in my small groups as well, is that health is what is health for you. So I have clients who are 120 pounds. I have clients who are 250 pounds. I have clients who are 150 pounds. My 250-pound client is not necessarily any more healthy or unhealthy than my 120-pound client. Sometimes my 200-pound client is healthier than my 120-pound client. We've been told that weight equates to health. It does not. It does not. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the biggest issues, is helping people understand that health is individualized, that health is what is right for your body at the size and shape that you want to be. Now, you might be 200 pounds and not want to be 200 pounds because you don't like the way you look, but it does not mean that you don't have a healthy body. And I know that just weirds people out. They're like, but how? We've been told that that's not true. That is true. It is very true. And so that's where I say, let's go to your doctor and get a full blood panel done. Mm-hmm. Where are your numbers? My numbers are all normal or below normal. Great. I'm assuming it's not your thyroid that's low. But, if your thyroid's low, then we know what we have to deal with. We know what we have to address and where we have to go with that. So again, I have clients who are everywhere. I've had very lightweight clients go to the doctor and they're like, you're like minutes away from type 2 diabetes. But I weigh 150 pounds. How is that? I'm 6 feet and weigh 150 pounds. How is that possible? It's possible because the diet they're eating does not support their body or their healthy life functions, even though they're physically thin. Mm-hmm. So again, it's helping people understand. I think that's the biggest thing. And that's probably where the most noise is too. And even in the traditional medical field, in the conventional medicine, doctors are taught that if your patient is heavy, they must be unhealthy and thus they just need to lose weight. Well, just lose weight. So that's kind of what I work on there. So it's building that, what is your baseline health? Where do you want to go? And then let's build the program, let's build the process, let's build the habits that support that level of health that you want.
So I do have to mention something which I think is really funny. So I'm at my dining room table right now. I'll actually show everybody. I have apples and carrots and all this crap going bad in the fridge, but I have this pig cookie jar that my mom gave me. And it's right here when I do my work. And guess what's inside? Ferrero Rocher. That's so bad. You couldn't see it, but I knew that pig was there the whole time we were talking. I'm such a bad person.
No, see, and here's the other thing that I help clients understand too. You're not a good or a bad person because of how you eat. And I know you're kidding, but at the same time, how we talk to ourselves about food really does matter because it affects the relationship that we have with food. And we do have a relationship with food. We have to eat for the rest of our lives because if we don't eat, we die. Mm-hmm. So we have to eat. So we have to have a relationship with food that is supportive, that is kind, that is enjoyable, pleasurable. Like food needs to be all of those things because we have to do it for the rest of our lives. Rest of our lives, like that's a long time. At least I plan to be here for a long more time. So, it's a long time, right? So when we talk about food is good or bad, or I'm a bad person because I eat this food, it affects the choices we make, and it affects that relationship in a way that creates unhappiness and displeasure and pain. Don't get me started on the deliciously ridiculous cookies from Trader Joe's.
Sarah was over at my place one time, and I had these chocolate hazelnut cookies from Trader Joe's, and I have more in the kitchen too.
Oh,
I know. Yeah. So
we went to a bakery the other day that we hadn't been to before, and they have these cookies that are like this big, and they're truly homemade cookies, and they have a peanut butter cookies might be my Achilles heel, and I don't like my cookies super sweet. I like my cookies closer to savory. Sarah, she'll be right over.
they're literally on the other side of this counter. Like, I will go eat one live on Facebook right now, Sarah, and make you jealous.
But yeah, so eating a cookie now and again is not a problem. Having it, treating yourself to a piece of chocolate is not the problem. It's the thing that you're eating primarily, then that's a problem. If you're not getting your fruits and vegetables and you're eating just the sugars and the processed carbohydrates, mean. She says you're mean, Jean. Mean Jean.
That actually is my nickname. But not because I eat cookies on Facebook and make people jealous.
No, I think you're probably pretty scary in court.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have no doubt you're very scary in court.
Havilah has actually met me in person. A lot of people that I've met during the pandemic have never actually met me in person. So while and they are surprised because I I'm actually 4'10", and I'm a very small person. Let's just put it like that.
Jean is petite in every possible way, except in her energy and personality. And she walks in a room and you're like, how are you not 6 feet tall? I'm just confused by this.
Yeah, see, I don't look at myself as a 4'10" person and until I see myself in the mirror, like at the gym in the class with everybody else, and I'm like, wow, I'm really short, which has been over a year. Or in a picture with somebody else, and it's like, wow, he's all the way up here. I had no idea, because I don't look at myself as like this tiny little person.
Right. No, and you have big energy, and I'm very similar. I'm 5'2". I mean, I'm not that much taller, but next to Jean, I feel very tall. It's wonderful.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you want to feel tall, you'll stand next to me. But I want to ask you a couple things, but and Havilah mentioned before we went live, things might happen and go wrong, like the power might go out. My battery's about to die, so I'm gonna ask you a question. I'm gonna run to the other room and get my battery, and then we'll keep going because I have so much I want to ask. But in terms of what did I want to ask this time? The junk food. I hate to even say that for, if there's anybody watching that makes cookies and things. I love junk food. I love cookies. I love pizza. I try not to eat it. And I just don't, I love it. And I try not to eat it, but I still do. I have like Sarah, I said, I have those cookies. I have frozen pizza in the freezer. I have apples, but I'll primarily eat healthy things. Where am I going with this? Well, you already kind of mentioned a cookie here and there is not that bad, but I guess if you...
Oh, we lost Jean. Oh, no. She lost. Hopefully I'm still on. I think I am. So I think where she's going with this is what is the line between, how do you deal with those cravings? How do you deal with all of that? Healthy eating is balanced eating. And if we are chronically nutrient deficient in any way, we are going to have cravings. And if we are chronically tired, one of those cravings is actually going to be sugar. Sugar is fast energy. Our bodies know this. This is why it craves it. Also, all of these products are made to be really tasty. Like, these products are meant to taste ridiculously good and make you want more. This is not by accident. The scientists in the world, the food scientists out there, it's $1 billion industry. The food science out there to try and get you to buy more and do more. Hopefully Jean will be back, otherwise I have to talk about myself, is huge. And so, that's part of what I address in my coaching practices and in my small group practice, is helping people understand that there's not good or bad food from a moral standpoint, right? Food is not intrinsically good or bad, morally speaking. And that when we say good or bad, that's what we're usually talking about. It's better energy or less efficient energy. and how it affects our overall cells and bodies. The more you eat consistently in a health supporting way, the more you, oh, and she's back. The more
my battery.
the less that you will crave those other things, because your nutrient deficits are being filled, and so your body's not craving things. Your body's not demanding quick energy because you're getting sustained energy through better balanced meals. So what I had said, Jean, was, and I don't know if you heard, but is that what I think you were trying to ask is like, how do you not eat bad, the good or bad? So basically, food doesn't have a moral value. There's no good or bad in a moral sense of food. Food is just energy. Food is a sensory experience at the same time. So that's where I say food should taste good. It should be enjoyable. It should create pleasure. Food science, which is what creates all these wonderful packaged foods out there that taste so ridiculously yummy, but have little to no nutritional value for us, they have kind of tricked our bodies into saying, ooh, if you eat this, you get this. But our bodies are smarter than that. So even though our taste buds and our brain goes, oh, this was tasty, our body goes, yeah, no, I'm still missing this nutrient. I'm still missing this piece that I need. And so I'm still hungry. And Sean Stevens, I think, said it best in Eat Smarter when he said chronic nutrient deficiencies creates chronic hunger. And chronic nutrient deficiencies create chronic weight issues. And there's never been a truer statement, And because it used to be that taste told our bodies what nutrients we were getting. Like if you eat a really ripe, fresh, almost wild strawberry, it has this really sweet, tart, juicy flavor to it, right? I'm not talking fake strawberry flavor. I'm talking real strawberries, really ripe, perfectly done strawberries at room temperature. So they have all that sort of like sun taste to them. That tells our body that there's vitamin C, there's folic acid, there's vitamin K, there's fiber coming in, right? But do we eat a false, a flavored strawberry something, and our body goes, oh, we should be getting these nutrients, but we're not. So we lie to our taste buds are lying to our brain and our body, but our body is smart enough to say, no, wait, I'm still missing X, Y, or Z. Mm-hmm. If there's a couple of things from sugar cravings perspective, if you have strong sugar cravings, you may need magnesium. There's over 600 cellular functions that require magnesium, and the US and developed country population tends to have a magnesium deficiency, if not deficit. So magnesium is one of those things that I almost always recommend supplementation for, because it's very hard to get enough of it in our diet anymore, because we've so depleted the nutrient value of our soil, so that even our fruits and vegetables aren't bringing in the same nutrients that they once did. So we do need to sometimes supplement. So vitamin D is something I always have people supplement, and magnesium is almost always something I have them supplement. Mm-hmm. So does that help? So like, yeah, I can eat a cookie and I'm okay with it, but I also am not somebody who's ever had a sugar tooth. Like I've never had a sweet tooth. My husband, who's a very structured eater, he has a very regimented himself. He eats very, very well. He has to have a tremendous amount of it's not even willpower, it's self-discipline. There's a difference, and we can talk about that later if you want to, the difference between willpower and self-discipline. He has to discipline himself to eat just one or two of those little extra chocolate chip cookies from Trader Joe's. He likes those with his coffee in the afternoon. So he has to discipline himself to only have one or two, or he could literally sit there and eat the entire container. Mm-hmm. It would never dawn on me to do that. Salt, I'm all about. Put a bag of potato chips in front of me and we have a whole different problem.
No, I'm very similar. I would say I like sugary more than salty. Like there's a bag of chips that's been sitting there for 2 weeks that I haven't opened. The problem is when I open it, I'll just keep eating it until I feel sick. I'm not even kidding. Like with hummus or salsa, like I don't know what my problem is. But cookies, I'll just go and I'll have one or two, whatever the serving is. I don't know why. And I know that I do it, and I still open the bag and it still happens.
So it's part of that is being very mindful and intentional. So that this is where mindset, and this is where all of that emotional work and that mindset work that we do in coaching, that I do in the coaching programs, plays a key role. Because what you're doing is mindless eating. You're not being intentional about what you're doing. You're just putting a bag of chips and salsa in front of you, and you're just in almost a hypnotic state eating, right? Whereas if you said, oh, I want chips and salsa, great. Put a little bit of chips in a bowl, put a little salsa in the bowl, and then you eat it, and when you're done, you're done. And you don't feel sick, and you feel great. But if it's there and you are not being intentional about what's going in your mouth, and you're doing it in that semi-hypnotic state, and that's like people watching, and I'm sure for you, Jean, it's probably also like working, right? You're working and you're just not thinking, and you're just, it's almost a boredom thing. Same thing when people are watching TV. They tend to overeat because they're not doing it for it's habitual, it's boredom, it's mindless. When you put mindfulness into the eating, you'll discover you eat a lot better, because you're like, wait, that didn't make me feel good. I don't really like that. Okay, it tasted okay, but now I feel terrible. What's more important, the fact that it was tasty for 2 seconds, or the fact that for 3 hours I feel like I look like I'm 6 months pregnant and feel like I want to throw up, right? I had to give up dairy. Oh my God, I thought I was going to die.
Oh, I couldn't give up. Couldn't do it.
But it got to the point where I was no longer willing to feel like crap all the time. And if that meant that I had to give up dairy to not feel like crap all the time, then that's what I had to do. And
how did you know it was dairy?
I've always had a slight reaction to dairy. And after my second child, it got awful. And my husband kept saying, it's dairy. You need to give up dairy. I'm like, it's not dairy. I eat dairy 6 times a day. It couldn't possibly be dairy. I can't live without dairy. And so, like all things, out of slight desperation, because I was so tired of being ill all the time, I had terrible acid reflux. I literally looked like I was 6 months pregnant. I mean, it was awful and just felt terrible. I was like, fine, I will go off dairy for a week. I'm telling you it's not dairy. Well, by damn, it was. So nothing like elimination to prove whether it is or isn't. And I will do that with clients as well. In the one-to-one coaching, we will do eliminations so that we can really say, this is what's bothering you. Because people will come to me and say, like, I must be gluten sensitive. And I'm like, well, let's see if it's really gluten sensitive. So we'll do an elimination diet, which is never fun, but it is effective. And then we add back things in, and they're like, oh yeah, no, that's definitely not gluten. It was dairy, or, it's soy, or it's corn. Like for me, the other one has been corn. Corn, oh God, I love corn too. Let me tell you, popcorn, maple syrup popcorn is amazing.
I've never had maple syrup popcorn.
Well, this may be us living in Vermont. Real maple syrup, not fake maple syrup. You gotta have real maple syrup. Pop that popcorn on the stove, fluffy and white, put it in a bowl, melt real butter if you can do real butter, otherwise whatever you can do. Melt your butter, it gets bubbly, you pour the maple syrup in, it caramelizes, you pour it over the popcorn, add the salt. Sweet, salty, crunchy. Does it get better than that? Not really.
Everything in there.
Yeah, pretty much everything, right? I love everything there except popcorn now. And I love popcorn. But every time I eat it, I'm like, oh, that does not go well. So part of mindful eating and part of working with a coach too is getting real and getting honest about what is working for your body and what is not, and then making those changes, making those dietary and lifestyle changes that create that. So yeah.
Yeah, well, that actually brought me to a couple of things I wanted to talk about. One, what's that diet called? Whole30. I've heard people who've done that. You cut out so much of your diet, and I've never done it, but I've heard, and then you slowly bring things back in, and then that's a way to find out things that your body just doesn't process well, or you might have a sensitivity to.
Yeah, so that was exactly what Whole30 was developed by. It was developed by a lady who was trying to heal herself through food, which is a fabulous way to heal yourself. And so many people have done it, and there are so many good resources out there now. Like, I don't have to invent anything, which I love. There's already resources out there. But that's what Whole30 was based on, is an elimination diet. So the Whole30 idea is that for the first 14 days, you basically eat really boring food. You cut everything out that could possibly create sensitivity. And then from day 14 to day 30, you add things back in one at a time, slowly. So you do certain things for a few days at a time to see what your reaction is, because it takes a while to build up to get a reaction in your body.
Mm-hmm.
From I also work a lot with gut health, which is a big part of how you digest your food. And many people have a gut that's called dysbiosis. It's out of balance. It's not healthy. And there's a huge amount of research that's coming out now, things that we've known for a while, but are now being scientifically backed with huge metadata studies, that our gut and our brain are basically directly linked. And they are literally directly linked. There's a vein that goes directly from our gut into our brain. And it transports, nutrients and the things that the brain needs, and it brings down from the brain a lot of hormone chemicals and messengers and things of that nature. If you think of your body as a giant messaging system, and your brain is the mainframe, and then it messages out and brings everything back in. So when your gut is out of balance and wrong, you may show sensitivities to food that you aren't really sensitive to, but because you don't have the right bacteria in your gut to digest it. So the easiest example is if somebody goes from being a vegetarian to eating some meat again, they will have obviously an adverse reaction to not obviously, but they may have an adverse reaction to the meat because they don't have the probiotics, the bacteria, the good, happy, friendly bacteria in their belly, in their gut, to digest that food and get the nutrient value out of it. So if you don't have a healthy gut, not only are you not digesting your food well, you're not getting your full nutrient value out of it, and it's what creates brain fog, it's what creates poor sleep. More than half your melatonin and serotonin are produced in your gut, not your brain. Like 60% of your melatonin and 70% of your serotonin come out of your gut, not your brain.
Wow.
Having that healthy gut, so that's kind of what Whole30 works on too, is like, give everything time to bring the inflammation, anything that's creating inflammation in the system, down. Once inflammation is down, then you can really assess what's working and what's not, and where am I out of balance. So, and that's what we work with. And even in Healthy Meal Simplified, which is my 6-week program that I do with people just to create simple meal plans, is we talk a lot about that too. Like, you have to have gut health to have overall health, because if your belly is out of whack, there is not one system in your body that's going to work correctly. Not one.
So then how does somebody figure out if they have a problem with their gut health?
Easiest thing is bloating, irregular poops. And yes, we do talk about poop and coaching and health coaching. It's a big part of our conversation. Everybody's like, oh, the poop talk. I'm like, yeah, we got to have the poop talk. Irregular bowel movements, too stiff, too loose, infrequent, overly frequent, bloating, pain, big gas bubbles. Like, people say, I have a giant gas bubble in my belly. Like, something is not right. You should not be producing that level of gas in your belly. So, that sort of thing. Nausea, like a constant sense of like, I eat and I feel nauseous. That's probably gut health, not actually in your stomach. That's actually in your upper intestines. That's an out of whack. And the best example I can give there is my son was born with terrible acid reflux, terrible. And we did all the medical things we could figure out. He was on medicine until he was almost 7 years old, which is not good, and it was causing all kinds of other problems. And I finally went to a naturopathic doctor. She's an MD, she's a naturopath who specializes in GI health and in type 2 diabetes. And what she discovered was he had an H. pylori infection. Now, H. pylori is a bacteria we all have in our gut. His had gotten out of control, had come that way apparently. Mine was out of control. That's how we got it. So she put us on deglycerated licorice, which kills H. pylori, brought it back down to a normal level. He was able to get off all his acid reflux medicine. Done. He's not had any acid reflux. He's now almost 13. He's not had any acid reflux since he was about 8.5, 9. So that's sort of the best example I can give of why gut health is so important and how it can affect everything, right? Like, and when you have really bad acid reflux, you wouldn't think it's your gut. You're like, well, it's my stomach. My stomach's wrong. Mm-hmm. It was his gut that was causing the stomach acid to be out of control. So knowing if you're out of balance, chances are if you're not eating a lot of probiotic-based foods or prebiotic foods, yogurts, fermented foods, kombucha, sour, raw sauerkraut, real pickles, not vinegar pickles, but like real pickled pickles, not cooked, raw pickles that have been brined, truly brined. Sunchokes, those are really hard on my belly. I can't eat sunchokes, but they taste delicious. Sunchokes were also Jerusalem artichokes. Apples, believe it or not, are a great prebiotic food. They actually feed the gut in your belly and help it stay healthy because it has a high level of what's called inulin in it. So there's just things like that. So that's kind of how you know if you're out of sync, is if when you eat, things just don't come out quite right.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's a good way to know.
Poop tells us a lot. We do have to talk about poop because it does tell us a lot, but I'm just like, Play Company doesn't talk about poop. I'm like, yeah, not always Play Company.
So one thing we have not gotten to yet is exercise. So I know you are a certified fitness instructor. You also are a certified Barre instructor and mat Pilates. I am a certified body pump instructor. And as Marvin knows, if he's still watching, and everybody that knows me, I love working out. And I am sure that part of the reason why I am the size that I am is because of the workout. And, oh, I wanted to mention this earlier, because I watch what I eat. Mostly, and again, this sounds bad, but because I'm so small and I have such a small bone structure, I can easily put on weight. And I've lost 25 pounds since high school, believe it or not. Like 25 pounds on somebody like, but it's not just that I'm short, my bone structure is small, so I can easily put on weight. So I'm very conscious about food and working out all the time. So I just wanted to talk about that, how those two go together. And I've recently read that, not every workout works for everybody. Like maybe cardio is not good for somebody. So do you want to talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. So again, exercise is one of those things where not one size fits all, right? Just like food, not one size fits all. Health is not one size fits all. So that goes right back to that. Like overall health is not one size fits all. I am somebody who does much better when I'm lifting weights and doing heavy resistance training than when I'm doing just straight cardio work. Now, I'm a ballet dancer. Been a ballet dancer since I was little. I was tiny for a very, very long time. And then I sat down at a job. And then I wasn't so tiny. Because, when you're used to burning a gazillion calories a week and all of a sudden you're not, but you're still eating like you're burning a gazillion calories a week, there's some adjustment period. So I did gain weight in my 20s, quite a bit of weight in my 20s, and then had to drop it. And then you throw babies in there too. And that always adds a new layer of fun. My first baby, I gained a lot of weight. I moved a lot less. My second baby, I gained much less weight and moved a lot more. And that made a huge difference in my overall health and fitness level coming out of that second pregnancy. He then proceeded to keep me awake for 2.5 years. So that created a whole other problem. That's a whole other conversation. But exercise is one of those things where really, first and foremost, if you're not exercising, just start. Like, it doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to find the perfect exercise. You don't have to do anything complicated. Literally leave your house and walk. Start there. And then walk till you get your heart rate up and till you get a little sweaty. And then as you start to feel stronger and more confident in your body, do simple things. And this is what I work with my clients on, is if exercise is the thing that's the challenge for you because, well, I just don't have time. Okay, I get it. We are all ridiculously busy. Like, we all are. And you throw kids and family and jobs and, oh my God, right? Like, who has time for anything? It's also about priority and taking care of ourselves and making ourselves a priority, which was a huge learning curve for me, oddly enough. That was probably my biggest learning space, was how to care for myself and why caring for me had to be a priority if I was going to care for everybody else in my space that needed care. So exercise for me is not just a physical fit thing. I like being physically fit. I like feeling powerful. I like feeling like I could pick anything up that I need to pick up, that I can, move large plants with my husband, and I can keep up physically with my kids. That's always been a big part of it for me. But I got injured and I literally could not walk. For twice, I was non-weight bearing on one leg for over 8 weeks. So 16 weeks total of non-weight bearing. That's a long time to not walk. And I've had to learn to rebuild all of that strength. But I couldn't go back on day one to where I had been when I got injured. I had to start where I was. And so finding different exercises that met my body where I was, but still accomplished what I needed, was partly how I got into fitness instruction. I actually didn't start teaching fitness until after my injury. I certified while I was injured and then started teaching after my injury. And it's one of those things where, again, my most important thing is that you do something. Do something. And what we can do is make it super simple. So if you work in a building that has stairs, walk the stairs. Walk the stairs. If you have 8 minutes in the morning to do a workout, we can do a workout in 8 minutes. Like, we can do that. Like, and it'll be a full body workout, and you will need to go take a shower when we're done. I just did in my group, I have a private coaching group, and it's open, it's free to everybody. So if you want to join it, please do. It's called Have Strategy Coaching, A Healthy Life Simplified. I can, after this, I'll put it in the comments so you guys can link into it really easy. But I do a challenge every month, and they're simple physical challenges. So like this month, we just finished planks and push-ups. So we started where we were, and we built by 5 seconds and 1 push-up every day. Doesn't seem like a lot, but I started with 10 push-ups, and I'm now doing 34 push-ups. It's a lot of push-ups. It's a lot of push-ups. That's more push-ups than I've ever done consistently in my life. But 1 additional push-up a day, and I can do 34 push-ups. Maybe not all full military push-ups, but I can still do 34 push-ups. And so and then I'm doing 3 minutes worth of plank. I've never made it past 1.5 minutes in plank, and now I'm doing 3 minutes of plank. Again, maybe not in full plank position, but I'm still doing it. And so the whole workout takes me 8 minutes, and I am in a full body sweat. So that's sort of what I am with exercises, particularly with clients. Start where you are. We're going to start where you are. We're not going to go try and run a marathon if you've never walked 10 minutes in your life. We're not going to make that our goal. That can be our year goal, but that's not going to be our 6-month goal. We can do a couch to 5K, which is a 90-day program or a 180-day program. That's, making goals that stretch you physically, but not goals that defeat you. Right? That's our key, is we want to stretch but not be defeated. And so with exercise, it's starting where you are and just doing something. Does that answer the question for you?
Yeah.
Because it is an important part. I mean, we do have to burn. We sit so much in our lives. I mean, that's what I love about the sports watches, right? Like, I love the accountability that the iWatch and the Fitbit and the Garmin and the Samsung, there's an accountability. Like, that watch tells me that I am now short. True story. It's 11:45. Should have been in bed probably 10 minutes to an hour ago. I look at my watch, and I am 4 calories short, and I am 2 minutes short of my closing all my rings. I'm like, damn it! Start myself a workout, and I do a bunch of sun salutations because, damn it, I'm closing those rings. So there is things that motivate each of us a little bit differently to get that exercise, to get that movement, particularly when I'm so tired, I don't want to. Exercise also becomes not about self-will. Not about willpower, not about motivation. Those two things don't last for more than a nanosecond. It becomes about self-discipline. And we work a lot in coaching, and I'm sure that Marvin will probably talk about this too, if he's, depending on what coaching he's in, but all coaching, we work on self-discipline, because motivation and willpower are fleeting. They're gone in a nanosecond. Self-discipline is what gets us to show up when we don't want to. I don't want to. I'm tired. My body hurts. It's raining out. I don't want to do it. Self-discipline it's not an option. It's a non-negotiable. You show up and you get it done. So
I've gotten in a habit, which was actually very hard to do, of working out in the morning before work. Because if I don't do it in the morning, I won't do it later. I'm too tired. If it's a nice day, I'll go for a walk outside in the afternoon. And I mean, that's sometimes I will, but it's much harder for me to do it later in the day. So it was very difficult to get in the habit, but I did get in the habit of doing it in the morning. And I had the discipline to do it because, I mean, I like working out, but I also don't like working out. I would say that I like it to the extent that you could possibly like it. Of course, I'd rather sit there and watch TV and do nothing. But yeah,
I like to sleep in. Like, can I just sleep the 30 extra minutes? Like, oh, let me hit that snooze. But I'll tell you, Mel Robbins, I love Mel Robbins. If you've ever watched or listened to anything that she does, her 5-second rule is fabulous. If you haven't, check her out. She's really awesome. Her 5-second rule is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Like, just launch yourself. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. No excuses. You basically, she has some science behind it too, because she likes that whole process as well. The idea is it takes your brain 5 seconds to talk you out of something. So if you move in those first 5 seconds, you will not talk yourself out of doing it.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. It only takes your brain 5 seconds, 5, to talk you out of something. So when your alarm goes off, don't hit that snooze, because that's 10 minutes of not moving. Right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden that motivation we were talking about disappears. So yes, I like exercise in the morning. Kids in middle school have had made me to adjust a few things, because middle school in Fairfax County starts at obscene hours.
Oh yeah, I went to middle school in Fairfax.
So I'm not big on 4:30 in the morning, but what I will do is once I get them off to school, before I start my work day, I do make sure I go work out, because I like that in the morning. Because yeah, if it gets to be, by the time I hit the afternoon, I'm driving kids to places and I'm tired, and then all of a sudden it's 7 or 8 o'clock and I'm like, I'm done. I've been moving since 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm done. So yeah, morning exercise is really the best way to put it in, if you can make it work for your lifestyle. If you can't, schedule it on your calendar, set the alarm, make it a non-negotiable. Any time of the day that you do it. My husband likes lunchtime. He likes to work out at lunchtime. He does it at lunchtime. So.
Well, and during COVID, I think that is probably when I started consistently working out every single day, which sounds weird, but there are so many. So because I'm the body pump instructor, I have access to that stuff online, but there are so many workouts online. The first thing that I looked up, because I would run like 4 miles 4 times a week. And then, in the days between that, I would do other things, but I literally typed in, what workout can you do at home that burns the same amount of calories as running 4 miles? Like, that's what I typed. And then I found this high intensity interval thing that was like 20 minutes. So, I mean, there's so much free online, and that there's stuff you can pay for too, but every day. And some days are shorter workouts than others, but I started doing it every day. And if there's a day that I don't do it, I feel bad about myself. And this goes back to what you were saying. What's the explanation for that? Why do I feel bad? Is it this mental thing like, oh, I didn't work out, so I'm going to gain 10 pounds? Like, is that what's going on in my brain? Or why? Because of my routine of doing it every day, my body is used to it. Why would I think that?
Well, again, that thought can be a couple of different things. There is a story there that there's some guilt and shame that's built into that story, right? There's something in there. We could thread that out, but I also think
that on my Facebook Live.
And maybe not on your Facebook Live. That's fair enough. The other part of it is there is a physical addiction to exercise because of the hormones that it releases. So you have a chemical addiction to exercising because you do it so regularly. It makes your brain and your body feel good with all the hormones that it releases. All those good juicy hormones that make you feel good, those adrenalines and a little bit of cortisol in the right way, because cortisol is not a bad thing. Cortisol only becomes a bad thing when it's excessive and you're not getting any downtime. That's when you get adrenal fatigue. But it's an upper. It makes you feel good. It's like fight or flight. It's like, I feel awesome. I feel empowered. I feel wonderful. That's what exercise does. I go throw heavy weights. I joke that I go throw heavy weights around at the gym so I don't kill people. Like, it keeps my body count low. And that's somewhat joking, but somewhat not, because it does release, like, if you have a high intensity job that has a lot of intense and kind of a lot of frustrated, angry emotion attached to the job that you do, not necessarily yours, but like you absorb that all day long from people, and going out into the world, you're going to be bombarded with that. So if you start your day on a physical high, then it makes all of that easier to deal with and keep outside of you. You don't internalize it as much, right? Because you're acting as a natural buffer. You've got the chemicals in your brain that are like, that's your problem, not mine. I'm going to help you fix it, but I'm okay. So that's partly why you feel bad. Now, I think If you're feeling bad from a guilt perspective, that's a different question. If you're feeling like physically like, oh, I don't have as much energy, I don't feel as good, my day doesn't go as well, there's that. The other part of that I will add is the thing that, so I've done exercise my whole life and that I understood. What I've added recently that has a similar effect to my day is a morning breathing and meditation practice. It's not a long one. It's literally 5 to 10 minutes is all I do. But if I don't add that to my first thing in the morning, even before I exercise, I find that I'm a little more agitated all day long. Everything is just a little bit harder. Everything is just a little bit more challenging. Because when you start your day in that breathing and meditation practice, you are calming that sympathetic nervous system and you're engaging your parasympathetic nervous system. So you're taking down your fight and flight system, and you're removing your limbic system, and you're allowing your frontal cortex and your amygdala to function in a more rational and calm way because you've properly oxygenated it and you've opened it up on that subconscious level to your highest self, basically. Again, sounds a little woo-woo, but lots of studies. Meditation is a fabulous way to lose weight, to do better at your job, to have a happier relationship with yourself and your spouse and your kids and whatever else. So those two things combined make a huge physiological difference in your brain, chemically speaking. And that's why when you skip them, you're like, I just feel wrong. I feel off. I don't feel good today. Like, this was not right. Mm-hmm. Because your brain's like, hey, dude, we didn't get our hit this morning. What the heck? I mean, really? Your brain's a drug addict. Let's just be clear. Your brain's a drug addict. It really likes the feel-good hormones. And when you don't get those, it gets a little grumpy. So that's why. That's part, from a physiological perspective, that's part of what that is.
Interesting.
I can talk for days about all this.
I know we could talk for days. But so following up on that, what is that a bad thing? Does that mean that somebody should not be working out every day? Because life happens. There's going to be a day where you don't work out in the morning or you don't work out at all. So do you cut back on your workouts because of the reaction your brain is going to have, or you just suck it up and work out anyway, or you just what?
Well, let me ask you this. Would you like to feel yucky every day, or do you like the way you feel after a workout?
Of course I like the way I feel.
Then do that. There's no reason not to. As long as you're doing it reasonably, you're not working out for 4 hours a day. Then we're dealing with excessive, then we're dealing with a whole other problem. But, and a workout can be as simple as a brisk walk for 10 to 30 minutes. I walk my dogs every single day because my dogs have to be walked every single day. It's just a requirement. Sun, rain, hail, sleet, we walk. Mm-hmm. So on the days that I'm not doing heavy weights, and I don't do heavy weights every day because my body can't physically take that.
Yeah.
And it needs a recovery period. But I do move. So I will do yoga on the days that I don't do heavy weights. I walk the dogs on the days I do heavy weights and the days I don't. I always get 30 minutes of walking. Sometimes it's super brisk. Sometimes it's a little more of a meander, but I always get it. So, and I always feel better after I even just do that. So it doesn't have to be an intense workout to get that same high. It can literally be 10 minutes around the block, getting your heart rate up just a little bit. So if your resting heart rate is, say, 64 beats per minute, you get your heart rate up to 90 to 100 beats per minute. That's all it takes. So no, don't cut back on your exercise, assuming you're not excessively doing so. Why? Why would you not want to feel that? Like, honestly. So, I mean, to the point where I will tell clients, like, if you're starting to feel really crabby by the middle of the day, get up from your desk and go walk. Mm-hmm. Go walk. And if you want, put a guided meditation in your ears or walk in silence. I think we have a tendency to overstimulate ourselves auditorily. Mm-hmm. We, in this culture particularly, are not good with silence. Silence is uncomfortable because then thoughts happen. And that's one of the things that a meditation practice has taught me, is that thoughts are part of meditation. It's the not grabbing onto them and chasing the story down the rabbit hole that changes. It's like watching clouds drift by or leaves on a brook. If you've ever watched a stream and the leaves just kind of float by and they bob and they weave and they're there, but they're not staying. They're just kind of there. learning to do that relaxes that, like your brain's a muscle and it can get really constricted and tight and like cramped up, right? And then it's hard to think and you have a headache and, and you find too that you're breathing right here, right at the top of your ribs, you're not taking a deep breath. And when you slow down and you fill that whole chest cavity all the way to the bottom of your ribs, through your belly, and then you exhale, it's like I feel it physically, like somebody pulls a plug and the drain just goes, and it's like something just releases. You add some breathing to moving in silence, all of a sudden that swirling mess that's in your head goes, oh, okay. Oh, here's the answer you've been looking for all day. Like, we just got to calm down. And so exercise can be part of that calming down process too, because our brain goes into a different place, into a different format when we're exercising than when we're sitting still.
Yeah, I know that's true.
Yes. My biggest thoughts come when I walk the dog. So there's definitely some science there.
You definitely think less about all the other things going on in your life while you're trying to hold a yoga pose, or when you're doing cardio, you're thinking about the workout that you're doing at that time.
And you're having to breathe.
And then the hormones that your body releases, as far as I know, well, oh my God, you know where this comes from? Remember Legally Blonde? Exercise. No, but the adrenaline, I swear I was a psych major. I was a double major in college. So I actually know this, not just from Legally Blonde. The adrenaline kind of balances out the cortisol. And the cortisol, as you talked about earlier, is the stress hormone, which is not always a bad thing, but the adrenaline, I don't know if the adrenaline brings the cortisol down, or they balance each other out, but it just helps with stress. Do you have a biological explanation for that? Does it bring the cortisol down, or does it just make them kind of even so you're not as stressed?
What it does is it releases so there's more than one kind of cortisol, and there's more than one kind of adrenaline.
Oh no. Okay, sorry guys.
No, but the simple answer is you are burning the hormones that you are releasing for stress. So by physically being active, you're doing fight or flight, right? You're physically moving your body. So now your body is utilizing the way it's built to utilize those two hormones. So it brings both those levels down, and it increases serotonin and, what's the other one? I'm going to blank on the other one.
Dopamine?
Maybe yes, dopamine. It brings your serotonin and your dopamine levels up because you've succeeded. You aren't dead. You didn't die. It's a win. Your primal brain goes, oh, we ran and we didn't die. Yay, we won. It doesn't matter. It ran from nothing. Your brain is too, your monkey brain is too basic to understand that there was, so it's not that you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. You're being chased by some problem at work that just is stuck on your hamster wheel in your head. And now you've done some physical activity and all those hormones have gotten burned up. And now the ones that help you solve the problem and relax that brain, and your parasympathetic nervous system kicks in, and your brain goes, oh, I got this solved now. We survived. We didn't die. And I now have a solution. So that's what that exercise does in that space. It's not that it brings one up or one down. It's that it utilizes it correctly. So when you're utilizing those hormones, it allows the other ones to come up. That's that whole runner's high thing. That's that serotonin and dopamine increase in that. If you're not getting that when you're exercising, chances are we need to have a gut conversation. So yeah, so that's how that works. And again, this is something that I work with my clients in my one-on-one program too, is building the process that works for them to create the best and healthiest life in the simplest package possible, so that they can make it a priority and a non-negotiable and not let it get run over by life. And they can get those runner's highs because we all deserve those. Those are fun.
They actually are. And people that don't work out think I am crazy. And I'm not, because they tell me I don't work out. How can you run every day? And why? Because I feel good. I don't run a marathon, but I like to be active. And I'm also the type of person that I always have to be doing something, like you mentioned with the noise. Like if I'm doing laundry, I'll put a TV on in the background. Like, even if I'm sitting home and like, if I'm supposed to not work, I'm still going to work anyway.
Jean, we got to work on that.
Yeah, I know.
So your homework, Jean, is going to be stillness. Quiet and stillness. It doesn't have to be long. Do 5 minutes. And again, I am a hyperactive ADHD woman. I've been most of my life. I have an ADHD child, the girl, not the boy. In my family, ADHD happens in the women. Also in my father, but mostly in the women. Which in girls, ADHD is very, very different than it is in men. But I'm also super high energy, always have been. Part of my wellness journey was getting that energy back and getting back into that sort of feeling myself in my own body and being really, really good with that. But part of that process was learning to be still, truly still, not just physically still, quiet, mentally. And that was what that meditation process. And when I finally embraced that and said, okay, again, I will try anything at this point because I'm trying it all. When I finally really, really leaned into that process and really leaned into affirmations and meditation and breathing and that stillness and quiet, not just silence auditorily outside, but quiet inside, was where the big shifts really started to happen and the big answers started to come out. And I started to feel a lot more connected to myself, which I had lost that connection a lot. I was coming back into my connected self, which I had really separated from myself, which is a big part of the spirituality separation. Like if you've separated spiritually from yourself, a lot of that's a self-connection miss. But that stillness is really powerful. And it doesn't have to be for long periods of time. It doesn't have to be an hour of meditation. Like, oh my God, shoot me. Just don't even bother. But having a 5 or 10 minute practice of truly still, truly quiet, it's really amazing what comes up. Because when we create silence and stillness, we allow our soul to speak. We allow the quiet voice in our head to be heard. We allow that deeper self to be listened to, versus the ego, who's super loud and talks first all the time and never shuts up and is always pretty negative and it's really all the time. Quiet allows us to hear that quieter voice, that voice that's the true us, that's the yearning that we have, or the need that we have, or the thing that the desire that we've been denying ourselves. That's when that's allowed to come to the surface, is in that quiet space. Otherwise, there's just too much clutter. It's too much clutter. And I have a feeling, Jean, you have a busy brain like I do. I mean, like busy, like it does not ever stop or shut up.
It does not.
No.
I try.
This practice was so challenging for me at first. But the more I got into it, the more success I started to see in other areas of my life that wasn't even part of the intent. The more growth I saw in things that were kind of stuck, that I didn't think would have any effect. The more I did it, the bigger those quote quantum leaps became. So that would be my homework to you, is find a stillness practice where it's quiet. And you can maybe listen. I love like the binaural megahertz music. That is the brainwave frequency music. It's between 354 or 325 and 987 are the megahertz ranges. Those are really nice. Like if you really need to have some sort of auditory stimulation, but practice that, what I call the float. Just kind of float. See what floats by. That's your homework. I give you homework. See, I come on your show and I give you homework.
Yeah, see, guys, this is not going to fly for those of you coming on in the future. You're not giving me homework. This is a one-time deal here. I will give
guys.
a few minutes. I'm going to ask you actually to put that in the comments, because I'm never going to remember what you just said about the music and the megahertz. I seriously, like, I could keep talking for hours. I want to have you back on because there's so much more to talk about, but I actually have to go.
Yeah, no, I actually do too. I have children I have to, acquire. So
Yeah, I don't have children yet. That's one of the things on my mind that bugs me. I'm 36 years old, or I'm going to be 30. I'm not 36. I'm going to be 36 next week, and I don't have kids yet, and I feel so behind. And we're not going to go down any more rabbit holes talking about Jean today.
No worries. Well, hey guys, I'm Have Strategy Coaching. I work with people one-on-one. One-to-one coaching is really powerful. I have 6-month programs that people come in and we work from where you are to where you want to go. And basically sort of my thing is I help busy women, primarily moms, but busy women. I save them from an unhealthy life of unhealthy nutrition and overwhelm, and we go to a life of simple, healthy lifestyle that fits yourself and the whole family. So that's what we do. And really quick, I have a 6-week program that is coming up starting April 19th. And it will be the last time I run this program until the fall. So it's Healthy Meals Simplified. It's 6 weeks. You will leave with a 30-day meal plan. It fits any eating style. And it's just creating meals, primarily dinners, every day for your family that fit. We talk about grocery shopping. We talk about planning. We talk about food. We have cooking demonstrations. It's a lot of fun. And that is in 6 weeks. So I don't have my link live for that yet, but I will certainly drop it in your group if that's okay. Once I get it live, that'll probably be next week. It'll go live, and it'll be the last time. So come join me. It's fun, and come check me out at Have Strategy Coaching, A Healthy Life Simplified on Facebook. We have a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you guys can obviously tell from listening to Havilah talk that she really does know her stuff, as Jennifer Hocutt said. And I seriously, I don't know if we're going to just talk again about random stuff or we're going to talk about something specific, but Havilah, I want to have you back another time because there's just so much to talk about. And you're just so informative, and I'm learning so much, and I'm sure everybody is. So I hope that you come back sometime.
Please, I'd love to. Thank you for having me. It's been great fun. As you can tell, I can talk about this for days.
I could too, and I have so many questions. But no more. I'm done for the day. I swear, I'm done. So
you're always welcome to message me questions. You're always welcome to join the group, and I'll send you an invite. You're always welcome to come in and ask questions, because obviously, Jean, if you have them, somebody else has them too.
That's true, and I will do that. So thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in and for checking out Havilah. She's great. I learned so much. I'm sure you guys did too. And if you are watching the replay of this and you're just coming in at the end, you definitely have to go back and listen, because Havilah shared so much useful information that I didn't even know about how to live a healthier life and get to where you want to be. And it's not just the simple stop eating, start working out. It's so much more than that. I can't.
But it's not hard. It's not complicated. It is simple.
It's just not easy. It's simple.
It's simple. It is simple. And I help you craft that simplicity that fits you, which I really love doing. I'm super passionate about it. This is what I'm pretty sure I was put on this earth to do. So
I can tell you're passionate about it. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys not next week, because next week is my birthday, but the week after that.
Birthday.
Thanks. 1 year older. All right. See you guys later.
Bye.